She stood at that door, her hand on the handle, her heart completely broken. Behind her was a grandmother slowly dying. No medicine, no money, no hope. In front of her was a man who had already stolen her dignity once before, and now he wanted to steal it again. She was 17 years old. She had done nothing wrong. She had studied harder than anyone in that school. She had prayed more nights than she could count. And yet, life had brought her to this exact door, this exact moment, this exact impossible choice. What would you do if the only person who could save the life of someone you love was the same person destroying yours? This is a story of Ujuma, and I promise you, by the time this story ends, you will never forget her name. In a small, dusty village, the kind of place where the roads are red with laterite soil and the nights are lit only by kerosene lamps, there lived a girl named Ujuma. Now, Ujuma was not ordinary. From the time she could hold a pencil, everyone around her could see it. A fire in her eyes that poverty had not yet been able to put out. She was brilliant, sharp, the kind of student who read her textbooks until the ink faded. She was beautiful too, not just in her face, but in the way she carried herself. With quiet grace, with dignity, even when the world gave her very little reason to feel dignified. But the most important thing you need to know about Ujuma is who she lived for. Her grandmother, an old woman with weathered hands, a gentle smile, and a heart full of love for the granddaughter who had become her entire world. They had nothing. No running water, no steady meals, barely a roof that didn't threaten to betray them in the rainy season. But they had each other, and to Ujuma, that was enough. She told herself, if I can just get through school, if I can just pass these exams, I can change everything. For both of us. She believed that with every piece of her soul. But there was something Ujuma did not yet know. There was a man at her school, a man with a title, a man with power, a man who wore the robe of a mentor and hid the face of a predator. His name was Mr. Bernard, and he had already been watching her for a very long time. Before we go any further into Ujuma's story, I need to ask you for something. This story is one of the most powerful, heartbreaking, and important stories we have ever told on this channel. If you believe that stories like this deserve to be heard, please take just 3 seconds right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with at least one person today. Your support is what allows us to keep telling these stories. Stories of real struggle, real sacrifice, and real survival. Now, let's go back to Ujuma, because things are about to get much, much darker. The classroom was crowded and hot. Students squeezed into wooden benches, notebooks open, heads bent. Mr. Bernard walked in, and the entire room went still. That is the kind of man he was, the kind whose presence alone made the air feel different. Heavier, tighter. His voice was slow and deliberate, like he chose each word as a weapon. On this particular day, his eyes swept the room and landed on a young boy named Jadena. Jadena was talking quietly to Ujuma. Just a whisper, just a moment. That was enough. Mr. Bernard's face changed instantly, not with the look of a disciplinarian, but with something else, something uglier, jealousy. He called Jadena out, in front of everyone, humiliated him, made him kneel in the hot sun outside while the class watched in silence. But here's what nobody in that classroom understood yet. Mr. Bernard wasn't punishing Jadena for talking. He was punishing him for being close to Ujuma. That was only the beginning. Later that day, Ujuma received a message. Mr. Bernard wants to see you in his office. She felt nervous, but told herself there was nothing to fear. He had been helping with her school fees. He had presented himself as someone who believed in her future. A mentor, a father figure. She walked into that office. She sat down, and for a few minutes, it felt normal. He praised her passion for studying. He told her she was one of the best students he had ever seen. Then the atmosphere shifted. He looked at her, and something in his eyes changed. He stood up, walked to the door, and said the 4 words that would shatter everything. Lock the door, Ujuma. She froze. And then, calmly, coldly, Mr. Bernard laid out exactly what he wanted from her. He had been paying her school fees. And now, he wanted to collect. Not with money, not with gratitude. He wanted her body. Ujuma felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. This man, the man she had trusted, the man she had seen as protector, was looking at her like she was something he owned. She refused. She said no. She said it clearly, firmly, bravely. And that is when Mr. Bernard showed her exactly who he really was. He looked her dead in the eyes and told her, if she didn't cooperate, he would cut off her school fees. Right now, right before exams. After everything she had worked for, he would take it all away. Ujuma walked out of that office with her dignity still intact. but the threat hung over her like a storm cloud that refused to pass. And at home, the storm was already pouring. If Ujuma's life at school was a battlefield, her life at home was a war of a completely different kind. While she was fighting Mr. Bernard's threats at school, her grandmother was fighting something just as devastating: hunger, debt, and the quiet, slow suffering that comes with having absolutely nothing left to give. That day, to feed the two of them, her grandmother did something that broke Ujuma's heart when she later found out. She took out her last precious wrapper. This was not just a piece of cloth. This was a gift from her late husband, the man she had loved, the man who was gone, the only thing she had kept through every hardship, every loss, every difficult year. She sold it for a small portion of Garian beans. That evening, the debt collectors came. They didn't knock. They walked straight in, loud, aggressive, cold, and began taking whatever they could find. Clothes, plates, the small things that make a house feel like a home. Because there was no money to repay what was owed. The grandmother sat in the corner, silent and shaking, watching strangers carry pieces of her life out of the door. And when Ujuma walked in and saw it all, she didn't scream. She didn't cry in front of her grandmother. She sat down beside the old woman, took her trembling hands, and said something that was both heartbreaking and beautiful. "Grandma, God will rewrite our story." She smiled when she said it, even though inside she was drowning, even though she was carrying her own private horror from that office, a secret too shameful, too painful to share. Because how could she tell this fragile, loving woman that the man helping them was the same man hunting her? She couldn't. So she swallowed it, and she held her grandmother tighter. But the story was not done being cruel to Ujuma, not even close. There was one person in Ujuma's life who saw her clearly, not as a student, not as a debt, not as something to take from. Jidenna, the boy who had been humiliated in class for simply being near her. The boy who, despite having nothing, would do anything for her. Jidenna knew something was wrong. He could see it in the way Ujuma carried herself, the weight in her eyes, the distance in her smile. He didn't know exactly what Mr. Bernard had said to her, but he knew enough. So he did something quietly extraordinary. He worked. He ran errands. He carried loads. He did any small job he could find, just to try and raise enough money to cover Ujuma's exam fees, to remove her from Mr. Bernard's grip. It was never enough. The numbers didn't add up. The money wasn't there. And Jidenna, with all his love and all his effort, could only watch helplessly as the pressure on Ujuma continued to grow. Then came the night that changed everything. Ujuma came home to find her grandmother on the floor, shaking, burning with fever, barely conscious. Malaria, typhoid, two diseases attacking one frail body at the same time. She screamed for help. She ran to neighbors. She begged. She pleaded. The chemist, the only nearby source of medicine, refused to give drugs on credit. No money, no medicine. Those words, no money, no medicine. Ujuma stood outside that chemist shop in the dark, with no money in her hands and her grandmother dying a few hundred meters away. And she thought about every door she could knock on, every person she could call. And one by one, they all closed, until only one door remained open, the one she had sworn she would never walk through again. She walked into Mr. Bernard's compound. He saw her coming, and he smiled, the smile of a man who had known this moment would come, who had engineered it, even who had waited patiently for exactly this. He mocked her first. Of course he did. "You should have chosen me over that jobless boy," he said. Then he told her the price. She knew the price. She had always known the price. Ujuma looked at the door. She thought of her grandmother on that floor, burning, fading. She thought of the girl she had been, the girl who believed in God rewriting stories, who studied until her eyes ached, who had done everything right. And then she walked through the door. She came out with a medicine. Her grandmother lived, but something inside Ujuma, the brightest, most unbreakable part of her, had been put out like a candle in the rain. Jidenna found out, not all at once, not in one conversation, but piece by piece, the truth assembled itself in front of him like a wound he couldn't stop looking at. The boy who had worked himself raw trying to protect Ujuma, who had loved her with everything he had, now understood that he had not been able to protect her at all, and it destroyed him. He confronted Mr. Bernard, a young man with no power, no money, no position, standing in front of a predator who wore authority like armor. He said what needed to be said. He said it loudly. He said it bravely. It changed nothing. And shortly after, Jidenna was struck by a speeding vehicle. Just like that, the boy who had carried firewood in the blazing sun to save her. The boy who had knelt in the dirt to be humiliated for simply speaking her name. The boy who had loved Ujuma when no one else saw her as worth protecting. Gone. Ujuma received the news, and the world she had been barely holding together completely collapsed. She had given up her dignity to save her grandmother. And now, the only person who had fought to preserve that dignity was gone. She had won, and she had lost everything. They say blessings sometimes arrive wearing the wrong outfit. They come at the wrong time, in the wrong season, after the price has already been paid. A few weeks after Jidenna's death, something remarkable happened. A foundation arrived at Ujuma's door. They had heard about her academic performance, her determination, her story. They offered her a full scholarship to study abroad. 1 billion naira. A renovated home for her grandmother, a promise of provision for the rest of their lives. On any other day, Ujuma would have fallen to her knees and wept with joy. This was everything she had prayed for, everything she had sacrificed for. But on this day, she stood at Jidenna's grave, the earth still fresh over him. And as she looked at the mound of dirt where the boy who loved her now rested, the scholarship meant nothing. The money felt like ash in her hands. She spoke to him. She told him she was sorry. She told him she would remember him in every classroom she sat in every country she traveled to, in every achievement she ever reached. She promised that Jidenna, a boy with no money, no title, no power, would live forever in the story of the girl he had loved so fiercely. Ujuma had survived. She had clawed her way out of poverty, out of exploitation, out of every trap the world had set for her. But she would carry the scars forever, especially the scar of a door she never wanted to lock. Ujuma's story is not just a story. It is a mirror held up to the face of every society that places a young girl in an impossible position and then judges her for the choice she makes. She did not ask to be poor. She did not ask for a predator to disguise himself as her protector. She did not ask to choose between her body and her grandmother's life. She simply tried to survive, and survive she did, but at a cost that no scholarship, no money, and no renovation can ever fully repay. The next time you see someone who has made it, remember that you don't always know the price they paid in the dark. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in Ujuma's shoes, with no money, a dying grandmother, and only one door left open, what would you have done? Was a sacrifice worth it? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something, please hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps more people find stories like this one. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We tell powerful African stories every week that you will not find anywhere else. And share this video with someone today. Someone who needs to be reminded that survival is never simple, and strength doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Thank you for watching. Ujuma's story is now part of you. Carry it well.